but it's maybe lower in virality or lower in reach. So what's interesting is by just looking every day at your statistics, it's the kind of thing you do when you, in the morning when you have your coffee, you just review your stats every morning. Yeah, so do I. You can kind of say, oh, okay, I better understand their perception of who I am. I better understand the kind of stuff they're looking for. I better understand what interests them. So today, I'm actually going to post up a comment or a piece of content, or I'm going to change something on my website to really nail what is interesting them. And just going to what you were saying about the perception, earlier on we were talking about, we work regularly on Bon Jovi's stuff when it comes to the UK, and we found a very high correlation between the fans of Bon Jovi and fans of Bocelli. So it's very interesting to see that the age group was actually over 45, and they also like pop rock. So it's interesting to see the perception.
And I think the other thing you really need to know is, where are your fans? That's like vital, because again, going back to this perception that you build in your mind of who you want to be and where you see yourself going. It's all well and good to go, we want to make it in Japan. No fucker gives a shit in Japan. Why are you going there? Like, and if you want to be in Japan, you need to talk differently to them. They respond in different ways. So it's all well and good kind of tweeting and going on Facebook. If you're not doing that in Japanese, they don't understand what you're saying, so you will never generate any interest in them. You have to understand your communication in terms of territoriality. I think this panel being about international is vitally important. You understand there are cultural differences, language differences. There's, from our perspective, one of the big problems we have in moving into different markets is not just translating the content we have, but actually, when you go into, say, the Middle East, we have to do a complete site rebuild, because it's not reading left to right anymore. Everything is back to front. And then if you go into Asia, sometimes it's top to bottom as well. So how do you work with your new audience that are interested? It's like, if you do see a spike in Japan, then you need to understand how you can communicate with them, because just putting something out there in English is actually really rude. There's no respect for their cultural differences. And I think one of the big ways of easily getting success is just to change your mindset slightly and realise that everybody is different. For Vivo, one of the really important things is that we... Sorry, being told off. My bad. Yeah, one of the important things for Vivo is that we look at the stats of, because obviously through our partnership with YouTube, we look at where people are accessing content, but on top of that, how much they're spending on it. So, and that for me is who's clicking on adverts, how much revenue are we generating in territories for our label partners, and does that correlate with the volume of usage? Because a lot of you will know about per stream minimums through publishers. If we go into the market with Vivo.com, we have to pay per stream minimums, but nobody's clicking on adverts. We don't have a business model. So we want to be everywhere, but we have to weigh up who's actually spending money. And maybe actually they're not spending money because they're just getting really crap TV spots that they're not engaging with, and that's why they're not clicking on the adverts. And maybe we need to work with creative agencies and come up with something slightly different. I think bands can do that as well. You know, you can really work at the grassroots level with people who want to use your music to do something that's a little bit special, and you can talk to consumers in a very, very different way. TV was all about broadcast, and it really was about having a big voice. Digital is very much about understanding your user and getting information back from them so that you can communicate more effectively. And that's the thing, is you just need to constantly have a two-way communication. So you're ever evolving, otherwise you don't learn and you will fail. Happy thoughts.
It's also about, we were speaking earlier about how digital is also very different in terms of timings. The traditional marketing channels are about preparing for 6 months and then having massive launches that are massively broadcast, radio, TV, print, whatnot, big budgets, you know, and then a downtime for 6 months because they're always waiting for the announcements. Digital is completely different. Digital, I hate that term. Tech is about communicating every day, every minute of the day, 24 hours a day. There are no weekends. You need to be posting at least 2-3 times a day, every day, relentlessly. And if you don't have something to announce, That doesn't exist in the tech world. You actually have to create the event yourself online. So, if you're a festival or if you're, a venue that doesn't have anything to announce because maybe you don't have booking, or if you're a small band and you aren't yet touring, it doesn't matter. You can still build fan bases at the grassroots level by talking to your fans and having them recommend you to their friends, bringing them on board, and creating incentives or creating events online to keep bringing your fans back. Do you want to talk about Amanda?
Yeah, so Amanda Palmer, everybody knows about Dresden Dolls and the fact that every once in a while she'll sit in her bedroom, turn her computer on, and start flogging stuff. And her fans love it. They lap it up. She'll sit there and she'll...
Sorry, she starts flogging stuff?
Yeah, basically. Self-flagellation.
Video auctions.
Okay, video auctions. So she'll sit there and she'll sketch something out and go, do you like this? She gets feedback instantly from her fan base and goes, okay, well, I'm going to print out some t-shirts. They're $15, who wants them? Just send me some PayPal money and I'll print them up. And they'll all be handmade by me. And she'll walk away with like 12 grand a night. That's like the best hooker I have ever met. Please don't quote me on that. But then also recently there's been in the news about her Kickstarter project, where basically she wanted to fund a tour and she needed a certain amount of money. She basically got $500,000 in like 48 hours. Again, that's unheard of. Like, the music industry doesn't see money turning around like that at that pace anymore. But the fact is, she built this fan base who really want to talk to her, and she responds. So going back to what Dana was saying before, it's like, you may not have something going on, but if people want to talk to you, why don't you talk to them back? It makes it so easy. It's like, I have my iPhone in my pocket, I can go on Twitter. If somebody asks me a question, I have never met this person before in my life, I'll respond. They've taken the time to ask me something, why shouldn't I take 30 seconds to respond to them?
And just to demystify yet again, it's like a conversation around a dinner table, just you have many, many, many people around your table from many different countries participating. So it's very similar to when you're sitting at a dinner table and none of your guests know each other. It's your job as the hostess to try to find links and conversation that may interest some of the people around the table. It's exactly the same thing online. I mean, that's basically it. So there's no mystery in tech and all of these tools. It's just about creating the conversation, and you can always have something to create or to announce.
Perfect. Well, we're going to open up to the audience in just a moment. I want to give one word of warning on demographic stats online. It's a big trouble. We're going to talk about it. So geographic stats and where people are on YouTube is really handy because they've worked out centrally. Their age and gender stats are self-reported and not always 100% right. Facebook goes kind of in a different direction. Facebook age and gender stuff. I've got an incentive not to put myself down as a 35-year-old female. Put my actual age, my actual gender, because you want your friends to find you. You need real information, you need real date of birth, that kind of thing. YouTube doesn't have that same kind of self-enforcing mechanism. So if you see a clash between the two, to my mind at least, Facebook is more credible in that regard, because all users on there have to have supplied this. You don't just see the few for which information was available. So just don't want anyone to kind of go away and start looking at stats and be confused by that in that particular instance. Sorry, I wanted to knock that on the head. Anyone's got a question? Out there? We've got... Oh, you haven't got a microphone.
I want to come back to what you said about posting 2-3 times a day.
Yes.
My question is, the other side is tiring your fans too much. I also try to make relevant comments, well, then the quick ones, make relevant comments 2-3 times a day.
You're absolutely right. That's why I said 2 to 3. I didn't say 4. Yeah, you should really limit it to 3 a day, absolutely, because otherwise you're spamming them.
Yeah.
So I completely agree.
And if you can't come up with enough relevant comments, is there a time that you can do, like, say, 1 comment in 2 days until you work out a way to do it interestingly 3 times a day, or you're like, it's really important to post that often?
Plug in the app into your iPhone and do it when you're on the move. There's no excuse.
Other questions? Any other questions? Any other questions? Cool. What is that?
I was just wondering, when you guys have any advice on bands trying to market to different international territories? I.e., are there different strategies that work or different platforms that work particularly well for different countries? I mean, for example, China uses a lot of mobile phone, they're constantly on their mobile phones, and I was just wondering, perhaps in Asia, a lot of people are interested in the Asian market. What's particularly working there, do you think?
In terms of developing markets specifically, mobile penetration is huge. One of the things that we're really interested with countries like Brazil is the fact that there's 2 contract mobile phones per person. Now, whenever I've been there trying to actually do stuff online, like the network just falls over, so I have no idea how we can succeed with streaming video over there through the network, but the engagement with mobile is definitely there, and the desire for people to want to access information instantly, and it really is about being instant and kind of marketing yourself constantly without being too large, but just being relevant. For different markets, people do use different services. There are always going to be anomalies where one service works strangely well in a certain market and then it falls down miserably in others. As Vivo, we've noticed that so far we've remained in Anglo-American markets in terms of Vivo.com owned and operated properties, but the first week stats from Australia actually mirrored in terms of population the first week stats in the UK. Bits of the overall network actually outperformed the UK and Australia in the first week, but overall we're seeing the engagement is still there. Our next big challenge is really kind of moving into other territories in Europe and Latin America and trying to, and it is a learning curve, try and learn how people are engaging and making sure that we're just being flexible as well, because I don't think there's any point in going to a market, especially with a service like ours, and saying, hi, we're Vivo, we're an American company, you will watch the Rihanna video. Actually, maybe people don't want to watch the Rihanna video. And going back to Twitter as well, you have somebody like Nicki Minaj, who rarely tweets, she's got 7 million followers, but then you'll have an indie artist who has 15,000 followers, but those followers are so much more engaged and willing to spend money on that artist because they feel a part of it. Whereas every once in a while, Nicki Minaj basically throwing her toys out of the pram and then going, I'm deleting my account. Who gives a shit? You don't talk to your fans anyway. You're an amazing artist, you're ultra talented, but you could probably move that level up. Rihanna's done it. Rihanna talks to her fans on Twitter. She also sends weird pictures, but, maybe that's how you engage with your fans in different territories. I don't know. Japan may love it, I'm not sure.
I think we'll do some research beforehand. There are massive differences between the territories. Work out the situation you're in, the territory you're trying to get into, and work out what the quirks are. If you've got a marketing plan that is the same for France, Italy, Spain, or Japan, something's wrong. If your product mix is the same for local markets, something's wrong. And so, depending on the situation you find yourself in, I think just being aware that there are giant differences is as much helpful information we can give at this point. When you find yourself in that situation, talk to people who've been there before, talk to people who've made mistakes in those markets, had success in those markets. Make sure you're actually thinking about the culture you're going into. I mean, that's probably why I was keen to put this session on, just to even put that concept of there are giant differences between markets.
I also wanted to add that the flagship platforms that we know here are not #1 in China or Russia or the Middle East. So you also want to make sure that, if you want to appear at the top in search results, it's Baidu in China, or, there's a Facebook equivalent that's actually much more powerful in Russia, etc. But first, if you are an artist, again, who is on a low budget, I would actually recommend that you build your fan base locally and then start working internationally.
Also, in terms of kind of being on a budget, so I used to be part of Atomic Kids, and back in the day, you used to get all the budgets come through. Stop laughing. I saw that. We used to get budgets come through for videos. We don't spend £250,000 on a video anymore. There's great companies out there like Radar who will hook indie artists up with directors to do a really, really high quality music video on a budget. So if you have to speak to people in different ways in different markets, actually, if your video that you're creating is costing you kind of pennies to make, it doesn't matter if you have to do 6, 7 videos. You can still do that on a really, really tight budget and be effective in communicating in those markets.
We've just got to wrap up, but so Avril Lavigne did some Girlfriend a long time ago. They re-recorded the chorus in different Asian languages and made a lot of money out of that same song reworked for those markets. there's a lot to be said. And I don't know, I might be speaking, overstating, but there can be an arrogance with the English language that you just assume other people will speak it. And I'm very guilty of it very often when I travel. But the fact that you make an effort to be accessible to those markets actually wins you extra credit. It's not just something you do, it's something that actually brings you benefit as well. And we've got to wrap up there, but we'll be around for a chat afterwards if you like, and thank you very much for coming along.